Happy day. I am Haripriya, Assistant Professor in the Department of Food Technology and Management, MOP Vaishnav College for Women. In today's class, we are going to talk about glycolysis, an important metabolic pathway in carbohydrate metabolism. Glycolysis is also called as Embden-Meyerhof pathway. It is the first metabolic pathway to be elucidated. Glycolysis is the principal route for glucose metabolism, and it is also the main pathway for metabolism of fructose, galactose, mannose and other carbohydrates derived from our diet. Glycolysis, look into the term, it has two words, glyco, lysis. Glyco means sweet and lysis means splitting. The official definition is that in glycolysis, a molecule of glucose is degraded in a series of enzyme catalyzed reaction to yield two molecules of pyruvate. Pyruvate is a 3-carbon compound, glucose is a 6-carbon compound. So, a 6-carbon compound is broken down to two molecules of 3-carbon pyruvate compound, and during this sequence of reaction ATP and NADH is generated. Glycolysis happens in the cytosol of all the cells. The advantage is that glycolysis can happen both aerobically and anaerobically. When we do strenuous exercise, when our muscles do not have enough oxygen, then anaerobic glycolysis provides us the energy. And when we look into the erythrocytes, the mature erythrocytes do not have mitochondria. So, they are completely reliant on anaerobic glycolysis as the metabolic pathway to generate glucose, which is the most important fuel for erythrocytes. Now, when we talk about glycolysis, we can say it has two phases. The reaction involving glucose breaking down to pyruvate has 10 steps in it. We can put them into two phases, preparatory phase and payoff phase. The first 5 steps fall under the preparatory phase and the next 5 steps fall under payoff phase. In the preparatory phase, glucose is phosphorylated to glucose 6-phosphate and then it is converted to glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. In this step, we are going to invest some energy to break down our glucose. So, that is why we call it as preparatory phase. In the payoff phase, there is an oxidative conversion of this glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate into pyruvate, and it is during these steps ATP and NADH is produced. So, let us now talk in detail about the reactions in the preparatory phase and also in the payoff phase. Now, when we look into the preparatory phase, there are 5 steps as we said earlier. Step 1 is phosphorylation of glucose. Step 2 is conversion of glucose 6-phosphate into fructose 6-phosphate. Step 3 is phosphorylation of fructose 6-phosphate. Step 4 is a cleavage of fructose 1,6-bisphosphate, and step 5 is the conversion of the triose phosphate. Let us look into the reactions in the preparatory phase in detail. The first step is conversion of glucose into glucose 6-phosphate. This is the first priming reaction involving the enzyme hexokinase. Hexokinase catalyzes the donation of a phosphate group from ATP to glucose. The phosphate group gets phosphorylated in the 6th position and glucose becomes glucose 6-phosphate. In the second reaction, glucose 6-phosphate is converted to fructose 6-phosphate. We all know that glucose and fructose are isomers. So, this is just an isomerization reaction. Phosphohexoisomerase enzyme catalyzes the conversion of G6P to fructose 6-phosphate. Now, the third step is fructose 6-phosphate is converted to fructose 1,6-bisphosphate. This is a second priming reaction where an additional phosphate group gets attached to the fructose in the first position. So, ATP is the donor of the phosphate and phosphofructokinase is an enzyme which catalyzes this reaction, and this is the most important rate limiting step in our glycolysis pathway. And look into the term over here, we call it as fructose 1,6-bisphosphate. We are not calling it as diphosphate. Here the phosphate are in the different position. One is in the first position, the other one is in the 6th position. So, we use the terminology bis instead of di. And this is a very important rate limiting step which determines the flow of glycolysis. In the next step, fructose 1,6-bisphosphate is cleaved into two triphosphate molecules, glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate and dihydroxyacetone phosphate. So, it is an aldolase enzyme which does this reaction. So, now when you look into this preparatory phase, we have taken up 2 ATP. Now, remember the concept of basal metabolism. Even for the normal functioning of our body, we need to invest some energy. So, even to break down glucose to get energy, we have invested 2 ATPs in the preparatory phase. Step 6 to step 10 is in the payoff phase. Step 6 is the oxidation of glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate to 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate. Step 7 is transfer of phosphoryl group from 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate to ADP. Step 8 is conversion of 3-phosphoglycerate to 2-phosphoglycerate. Step 9 is removal of water from 2-phosphoglycerate to form phosphoenol pyruvate, and step 10 is a transfer of phosphate group from phosphoenol pyruvate to ADP. Now let us look into these reactions in detail. In the preparatory phase, we said that fructose 1,6-bisphosphate is cleaved into glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate and dihydroxyacetone phosphate. And we said that glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate and DHAP are isomers. Now in glycolysis, this isomerization reaction is more favorable for the formation of glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. The reason being, the next step uses glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate as a substrate. So always DHAP gets converted into glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate and the reaction proceeds from there in our payoff phase. Glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, by the action of the enzyme glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate dehydrogenase, becomes 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate. For this reaction, 2 inorganic phosphorus is taken and 2NAD is reduced to 2NADH. Okay. Now why 2 molecules means? We know that fructose 1,6-bisphosphate is cleaved. So we get 2 triose phosphates and DHAP is again converted to glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. So we get 2 glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate molecules to undergo the reaction. 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate now gets converted to 3-phosphoglycerate by the action of the enzyme phosphoglycerate kinase. Now this is the first ATP forming reaction in our glycolysis. We also call it as substrate level phosphorylation. Here 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate is a high energy compound. Okay, now we are going to take the phosphate group from this high energy compound and it is getting phosphorylated with ADP to form ATP. So substrate level phosphorylation means at the cost of the substrate, ATP gets phosphorylated without getting into electron transport chain. Now the 3-phosphoglycerate which is formed is converted to 2-phosphoglycerate. This is just a change in the position of the phosphate group by the action of the enzyme mutase. From 3rd position, the phosphate group is moved to the 2nd position. 2-phosphoglycerate undergoes a dehydration reaction, water is removed by the action of the enzyme enolase and we get phosphoenol pyruvate. Now this phosphoenol pyruvate becomes pyruvate by the action of the enzyme pyruvate kinase. This is a second reaction in which ATP is formed, a substrate level phosphorylation reaction. ADP gets phosphorylated to form ATP. So in the payoff phase, 4 ATP is produced and 2 NADH is produced. This 2 NADH will later enter the electron transport chain and it can make ATP. 6 ATP can be got from 2 NADH which is produced over here. To have a short recap of substrate level phosphorylation which happens in glycolysis, it involves phosphorylation of ADP to ATP at the cost of the substrate which is a high energy compound, and ATP is produced without involving the electron transport chain. This is a very important concept to be remembered. Okay. Now what happens to the pyruvate which is the end product of breaking this glucose? It has 2 metabolic fate option. One is under aerobic condition, pyruvate can get converted to acetyl-CoA and this acetyl-CoA enters our TCA cycle. From there the electrons can move on to the electron transport chain. Under anaerobic condition, pyruvate will be converted to lactate by the action of the enzyme lactate dehydrogenase. So glycolysis can happen in both ways, aerobic and anaerobic. Under aerobic condition, pyruvate proceeds to form acetyl-CoA and the reaction proceeds in moving on to TCA cycle and electron transport chain. Under anaerobic condition, it is a lactate is being produced and then gluconeogenesis will take further. The net equation is that glucose is broken down to 2 pyruvate, 2 NADH is reduced to 2 NADH. When you look into the ATP formation under aerobic condition, 8 ATPs are produced. Under anaerobic condition, 2 ATPs are produced. Now let us look into the details of this energetics. We all know that in the reaction catalyzed by glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate dehydrogenase, NADH is produced and this NADH is going to enter electron transport chain under aerobic condition and we will get 6 ATP out of it. The reaction catalyzed by phosphoglycerate kinase is a substrate level phosphorylation. We have got 2 ATP in it. In the reaction catalyzed by pyruvate kinase, again a substrate level phosphorylation, we have got 2 ATP. So, overall it is 10 ATP which is produced, but we have consumed 2 ATPs in the reaction catalyzed by hexokinase and phosphofructokinase. So, the net ATP yield is 8. So, under aerobic condition we get 8 ATPs, under anaerobic condition we get 2 ATP. Now, let us move on to the inhibitors of glycolysis. We have iodoacetate and fluoride as potential inhibitors of glycolysis. Iodoacetate can block glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate dehydrogenase and fluoride can block enolase. Fluoride inhibits glycolysis and sometimes we make use of this in our lab analysis. When we collect plasma sample for glucose estimation, we add fluoride into it so that we can stop glycolysis while we estimate sugar. Now moving on to the regulation. We all know that there are 10 steps in glycolysis. In the 10 steps, 7 reactions are reversible and 3 reactions are irreversible. Now, the 3 steps which are irreversible are the most regulatory and rate limiting step. Now, let us look into this. First one is the hexokinase and the glucokinase. What is the step over there? Glucose getting phosphorylated into glucose 6-phosphate is a step where hexokinase or glucokinase acts. Hexokinase and glucokinase are isozymes. Hexokinase is present in all tissues. Glucokinase is more specific for the liver cells. And hexokinase is allosterically inhibited by the product. When levels of G6P is more, then hexokinase activity slows down. But glucokinase enzyme is not inhibited by the product in the liver because in the liver conversion of glucose to glucose 6-phosphate is a favorable reaction. Later G6P will be used for glycogen synthesis or for other metabolic process. So, it is not product inhibited, but it is an inducible enzyme. Insulin will favor the production of glucokinase. Now, this next regulatory step is phosphofructokinase. It is the most rate limiting step. It is activated by fructose 6-phosphate, AMP, fructose 2,6-bisphosphate. Again, this phosphofructokinase is an inducible enzyme. Insulin increases the activity and glucagon decreases the activity of this phosphofructokinase. And citrate and ATP levels, if they are high in our body, then glycolysis will slow down. This is basic common sense. Now, when we have enough energy, there is no need to break our glucose to give energy. Instead, glucose will be conserved and stored in the form of glycogen. Now, the next rate limiting step is the reaction catalyzed by pyruvate kinase. This enzyme is activated by carbohydrate intake, insulin activates and glucagon inhibits. Now, when we talk about glycolysis, we cannot miss out the concept of BPG shunt. So, it is Rappaport-Lubering cycle or BPG shunt which happens in the erythrocytes. Now, all of us will recollect that glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate is converted to 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate in our normal glycolytic pathway. In RBC, there can be a bypass reaction where this 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate without getting converted to 3-phosphoglycerate gets converted to 2,3-bisphosphoglycerate. Now, the reason for this is that in mature erythrocytes, this 2,3-BPG has a major role in favoring the unloading of oxygen to the tissues. Now, how this reaction happens is that 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate by the action of the enzyme bisphosphoglycerate mutase gets converted to 2,3-bisphosphoglycerate. Later, this 2,3-BPG can be converted to 3-phosphoglycerate by the action of the enzyme 2,3-bisphosphoglycerate phosphatase. So, why this shunt happens is that it has a purpose in the body. In RBC, it favors the unloading of oxygen into the tissues. When we are in high altitude, levels of 2,3-BPG is high to favor oxygen unloading. And also in fetal circulation, the levels of 2,3-BPG is high in order to favor oxygen unloading to the tissues. Now, moving on to the significance of our glycolysis other than energy production. Look into the intermediates of our glycolysis. The first intermediate, G6P. Apart from continuing in the glycolytic pathway, G6P can enter into other metabolic process like glycogen synthesis or in the uronic acid pathway or HMP pathway. Okay. Now, fructose 6-phosphate is used for the synthesis of glycosamines. Glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate intermediates are very important in HMP pathway. Dihydroxyacetone phosphate can be converted to glycerol 3-phosphate, which is important in lipid metabolism. Then apart from glucose, fructose, galactose, mannose, and even glycerol can enter into our glycolytic pathway and it can be oxidized. And we already discussed that the 7 reactions are reversible, and these 7 reactions are the basis for gluconeogenesis. Gluconeogenesis means it's a creation of a carbohydrate from a non-carbohydrate source. So when we do not have enough glucose in our body, gluconeogenesis will come into action. So for this, these 7 steps are the basis, and the pyruvate, which is produced as the end product of breaking our glucose, is a precursor in TCA cycle and also synthesis of other compounds. So this is all about the significance of glycolysis. To have a short recap of what we have said, we were talking about glycolysis. Glycolysis is a process in which glucose is broken down to 2 molecules of pyruvate, and during this process ATP and NADH is produced. We have invested 2 ATP and we have reaped 8 ATP in aerobic glycolysis and 2 ATP in anaerobic glycolysis. The pyruvate can either enter TCA cycle under aerobic condition, or under anaerobic condition it can move on to form lactate by the action of the enzyme lactate dehydrogenase. I hope you all understood what glycolysis is. Let us meet again with another module. Thank you.